Welcome to this third presentation in FRSA's webinar series, First Nations Focus on Family and Relationship Services. My name's Robin Clough and I'm Manager of Policy and Research here at FRSA. So I would like to begin by acknowledging that we're all joining from unceded lands today. I'm joining from Ngunnawal country and I pay my respects to elders past and present, and I acknowledge other people and families that have a traditional connection to the lands of the ACT and region. I'd also like to acknowledge and welcome First Nations people joining the webinar today. Well, welcome to you all. I'm really delighted to introduce our two guest speakers today, Jack Archibald and Lachlan Skinner from Interrelate, who will present on their message stick action research project. So Jack is a passionate First Nations child, youth and family worker at Interrelate, and he's dedicated to strengthening community bonds and fostering mental wellbeing. And Lachlan is a First Nations community development worker at Interrelate and also founder of One Mob Radio. Jack and Lachlan presented on their message stick project at our national conference in May this year, and they've also published an article in our 2024 National Conference e-journal, which just goes into a bit more depth about the project. So I will share the link to that e-journal in chat shortly. I do note that we will have a little bit of time for questions at the end, so please pop those into chat as they arise for you. But now, Jack and Lachlan, I'd like to welcome and hand over to you.
Thank you, Robin. G'day, everyone. Dara Yinagagigul. Hello, everyone, and good to see you today. G'day, Nijawan. My name is Lachlan Skinner. I'm a proud Gumbaynggirr man.
G'day, Nijawan. Nanoni Bajar, Jack Archibald. I'm a proud Camilleri man raised on Gumbaynggirr country.
We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are all meeting from different Aboriginal nations, and we are meeting with you on the lands of the Gumbaynggirr people of the Gumbaynggirr Nation. We also invite you to share the lands on which you're meeting today through the chat if you like to. Our acknowledgement is a moment to reflect on the beautiful connection to country and culture that we as Aboriginal people have. I start by acknowledging the beauty and the power of country for First Nations people. We pay our respects to our ancestors, elders, and knowledge holders, past and present, acknowledging their contribution to caring for and maintaining the lands, waters, and culture of the many countries that we come together today. Acknowledging the ongoing connection that we have to this country, but also a reminder that we all, as Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people alike, living on or visiting these lands, that we have a collective responsibility to continue caring for the country on which we stand. We also acknowledge the work and pay our respects to all First Nations people in our presentation today. Today we represent Interrelate, established in 1926. Interrelate strongly values diversity and reconciliation. In doing so, Interrelate established Kitanya in 2012, a First Nations staff reference group to support the delivery of services to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, and appointed a practice specialist for First Nations work in 2019, who would support the organisation and our community development workers. Jack is employed as an identified worker in our family mental health support team, which is supported by my work as a First Nations community development worker. The message stick program was developed by Jack and I. We work from a narrative, culturally based framework. Our aim is to support young people and their families in the transition from primary school to high school, working alongside schools, elders, and community. Today, we hope to outline the drivers to developing our message stick program in our region and the aims and early outcomes of the program elicited through action research. Before we continue this presentation, I just wanted to let everyone know that we have gained permission to feature the following images.
As mentioned, we live and work in Gumbaynggirr country. ours is a small regional city with a high First Nations population. Coffs Harbour is made up of strong community partnerships, includes many small primary schools and large populated high schools. Can you see the red markers here? These are a multitude of little local primary schools across our country. Imagine growing up as a First Nations young person, attending one of these small, community-minded primary schools with roughly 100 students and a year group of no more than 20 kids. You're a big fish in a small pond. Then, next year, you will have to move into high school with hundreds of young people and a year group population greater than the entire school that you attended. Can you imagine how this might feel? Family and elders in our North Coast Gumbaynggirr region have for some time now raised concerns about the lower rates of successful school transitions experienced by First Nations young people compared to the general cohort. Statistically, First Nations young people's attendance and engagement is 10% lower than their non-Indigenous peers, as pointed out by the Closing the Gap report. This is Uncle Tony, one of the local elders we listen to. In this photo, he's leading a yarning circle with young people at the Yarrawurrung Cultural Centre. Our local elders, like Uncle Tony, think that the main contributor to these issues for transitioning youth is cultural disconnection. To them, this looks like not knowing who your mob is, not growing up on country, not having access to key elders or members of community, disconnection to story or language, decreased or no participation with cultural practices, and knowing they're Aboriginal but not knowing what that means. What elders in our community label as cultural disconnection, educators describe as emotional regulation problems, decreased school attendance, and disengagement with learning. Both elders and educators agree that the point of transition for primary to high school is a time where there is increased risk of disengagement for First Nations students. These factors make it hard for First Nations students to transition from the small community-focused primary school to a larger, less connected high school. Elders express their sadness when they observe their young people walking down the street in school hours. This led us to map the relevant voices to support First Nations young people through the transition.
One of the voices we listened to expressed the core of this need in a powerful way. The words on this slide are from a community member. He says, culture and identity is important because identity is our sense of self and sense of belonging. Understanding our cultural heritage allows us as Aboriginal people to recognise and appreciate the deep connection we have to our country. To help our young people develop their sense of self and sense of belonging, the Message Stick program focuses on bridging practices, creating connections through relationships, mentoring, community school partnerships, a strength-based approach. With this in mind, we began brainstorming ideas for a cultural program that met the needs identified from consultation with educators, community, and young people. The Interrelate First Nations practice specialist suggests the use of a physical message stick, as seen in this photo. The message stick can vary in size and shape and is traditionally used by First Nations people when moving between two places. Styles also vary, but are generally a length of wood with phrases, story art, or topics expressed in language. Local people on Gumbaynggirr country say the message stick would traditionally be made by our local trees, blackbutt or bloodwood. Previously, in our case management and group work, Jack and I successfully incorporated culture with First Nations young people to improve their well-being. We wondered if borrowing from this idea might improve the transition from primary school to high school for First Nations students. We took on the challenge of exploring how we might bring elders, community, and educators together to incorporate cultural traditions to achieve just this.
The overall hope for this program is to do ourselves out of a job by creating strong links between community and educators. What this looks like in practice is actioning the aims you can see here. Firstly, the Message Stick program promotes a sense of cultural identity by providing opportunities for students to engage in activities that celebrate culture and share knowledge with stories. Secondly, the program encourages each member to feel comfortable practicing their culture. Then we aimed to create partnerships between community and educators in support of the participants. Through yarning circles, the message stick allows participants, educators, elders, and community to share stories, which in turn enhances pride and amplifies the voices of young people. The passing of the message stick around a yarning circle increases confidence by representing equal participation and respect for each person's voice. As it travels, the message stick signifies shared ownership of the conversation, fostering active listening and engagement from the group. Lastly, we asked ourselves if there could be a role for older First Nations students to support and mentor the transitioning youth.
The Message Stick program is funded by a non-Indigenous organisation, Interrelate. To balance this, we chose the action research model seen here. This elevates the voices of our elders and community in the relationship with educators, resulting in sustainable supports for First Nations young people. The action research model is holistic. It identifies and solves problems through consultation and encourages everyone involved to freely share their thoughts and opinions during each of these steps. Then we collected data from a variety of sources to inform the direction of change in this repeated process. This framework includes the narrative approaches that we use as First Nations workers. It allows for ongoing evaluation and development based on the voices of the participants over generations, and it has been used successfully in First Nations contexts previously. Using a community-led approach meant the program could acknowledge and address the barriers that exist for First Nations young people. This includes mistrust, isolation, and colonisation. They can engage in acts of resistance by being guided by their own stories rather than the dominant narrative. This empowers them to reclaim their traditional narratives and identify their traditional narratives and identities through storytelling. Here, young people are given the opportunity to buddy up with a high school student to create a message stick that tells their story of journey between two symbolic places. The message stick can help students carry their story and knowledge into this new stage of life. In the planning stage, consultations were undertaken through individual conversations with Department of Education and local schools, the Gumbaynggirr Elders Group, Aboriginal community organisations, and the Police Aboriginal Community Liaison Officer. The ACT stage was delivering the message stick program, which was facilitated over 5 sessions. In the recruitment phase, Jack and I would speak with the local small school where majority of students were transitioning into the same high school. The school would confirm the number of Year 6 First Nations students, and we would then collaborate with the high school teachers to select the same number of mentors from those already displaying leadership amongst peers and who had the potential to lead by example for the students transitioning into high school. Research across several studies observed that older school students from the same cultural background were found to be effective mentors and role models. In the initial session of the program, met with the primary school students at the primary school and the high school students at the high school with the chosen mentors. This session includes the creation of the shame mat. The shame mat activity stems from First Nations community adopting the word shame as an expression of vulnerability, being shy, embarrassed, or uncomfortable. This method is a core component to further reinforcing the commitment to creating safe and non-judgmental spaces where stories can be shared, reauthored, and celebrated within cultural knowledge and values.
This slide here shows the creation of the shame mat. The shame mat is used at the beginning of each session. As they enter the room, each student will wipe off their shame onto their mat. This is a narrative therapy approach to externalise that feeling, creating a safe space to share. In the second session, Lachlan and I meet with all parties at the high school. We invite elders to share cultural knowledge of the message stick and the importance of identity and practicing culture. We then facilitate icebreaker activities to build rapport and establish relationships between the students and teachers. The activities involve outdoor interactions where they move around freely and shift from group to group, learning about each other and what they're interested in. In the third and fourth session, we meet with everyone at the high school. We begin in a yarning circle, and participants are invited to share thoughts and stories as a group. We then partner a primary school student with a high school student. This relationship plays a significant role as their buddy helps validate their experience and foster a sense of connection within a witness structure to invite a retelling of their story. Here, the students are having fun with their icebreakers. If you would like, put in the chat what you think they might be trying to spell out. And we'll let you know at the end. The icebreaker activities have been a great way to foster collective efforts, leading to a deeper bond among friends and creating a shared sense of purpose and growth. In adapting and innovating narrative practice within Aboriginal communities, it's important to be mindful of the unique cultural and historical context that shapes individuals' experiences. This includes recognising the impacts of colonisation, dispossession, and systemic oppression on Aboriginal identity and well-being. Message Stick aims to centre cultural strengths and resilience within the yarning circle activities, rather than preserving deficit-based narratives. The yarning circle's physical arrangement is equally crucial for promoting equality and inclusivity. With everyone seated at the same level, no one is elevated or marginalised, reinforcing the principle that every voice is equally valued. This seating fosters unity and solidarity, emphasising our shared journey of cultural connection and identity exploration. The third and fourth sessions include the creation of the message stick. In these sessions, the group revisits stories shared by local elders in smaller groups with buddies. While they have these conversations, they work on their message sticks, speak about things important to them, and use symbols, words, and colours to express themselves through their transition journey.
The final session is a celebration and reflection of their message stick journey. We met with all parties at the high school. This session would involve everyone contributing to a collective document project, preserving heritage and empowering them to share significant stories with future generations. This occurs by centering culture, exploring stories of strength, resistance, resilience, and reconnecting with identity through remembering techniques. The message stick can be adapted as a traditional tool to deconstruct dominant discourse of the educational system and recognise the young participants as the experts in their journey. This session includes the presentation of the young people's message stick, certificates, and a smoking ceremony seen here. This ceremony is traditionally used to cleanse bad spirits when transitioning between spaces. It also encourages good spirits to walk with one through future journey. During the smoking ceremony, CEO of Bullerim Aboriginal Corporation shared with participants, "You all have a right to education, but you have a responsibility to use your education and to look after each other as Guru students in your school and make sure you empower each other on this journey." Throughout the program, we collected feedback from elders, teachers, principals, students, and community about the program content, how it has been received, and whether the program is culturally supportive. Individual and collective feedback is sought using surveys as well as gathering feedback in the form of a collective document mentioned earlier. Collating reflections made up of drawings and stories. This is also used as a narrative therapy approach. Here are some of our findings.
You can see here from this slide, the blue indicated the pre-program responses and the orange reflects the post-program results. As we can see, identity was impacted positively by the message stick program. Through cultural art activities, storytelling sessions, and yarning circles with community members and teachers, students developed a deeper understanding of their cultural identity. This exploration helps strengthen their sense of self and belonging, providing a strong foundation for their transition to high school. In this slide, We can see a positive result indicating that the Message Stick program created a safe and connected opportunity for them to practice culture in their school environment. In relation to cultural practice of the Message Stick, the young people learn about what it is and how it is traditionally used. This slide speaks for itself in acknowledging how successful the Message Stick was in allowing students to experience this particular aspect of the generational transfer of knowledge. We asked the students here how comfortable they felt transitioning to high school before and after the program. We can see here there was an increased level of comfort for students after participating. In each session, we had different ways of listening for feedback. At the completion of the first pilot, we used a traditional circle to yarn with elders about their reflections, stories, and their ways of imagining the future Message Stick program. We also sought feedback from the students' mentors to gauge their confidence to support the younger students. We explored ways of acknowledging our own reflections. Following the initial session of the second pilot, we recorded a process interviewing each other about what we noticed showed up for us and for the participants during the program. Further reflecting on these observations, we created such a deep and lengthy reflection, we called it a podcast. In regards to this, further research, we have made an agreement with the schools for a longitudinal survey at a future time to gain insights about the sustainability of the program in supporting the transition to high school for each cohort that comes through.
Throughout this presentation, we've used the word decolonise. This encompasses the efforts to recognise, confront, and rectify the historic injustices and ongoing impacts of colonisation. Simply, we hope to move away from the ways that the system has tried and unfortunately missed the mark. We knew by surrounding our young people with community, culture, and country, we would see positive change in the way that they viewed our local educational system. To conclude, although Message Stick program is a pilot program, the results of the action research reveal a strong indication that the delivery of connection to culture and country, fostering peer relationships through mentors, establishing collaborative partnerships and safe ways to practice culture can positively influence the experiences of First Nations young people transitioning from primary to high school. By embedding cultural practices that the program fosters a sense of belonging, confidence building, and resilience among participants. It challenges existing power dynamics, amplifies diverse voices, decolonizes through reclaiming traditional narratives and empowering young people to navigate their educational journey with pride and purpose. As we continue to gather insights and refine our approaches through ongoing action research, we are committed to raising sustainable support systems that uphold the rights and responsibilities of Aboriginal students in their educational journey. Daranda. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Hey, Lockie, would you mind just going back to the icebreaker picture?
Yes, yep.
So in this picture, they're actually attempting to spell out the word deadly. So you may be able to see it there slightly.
Not quite obvious, is it?
Well, I have to say that my colleague Narelle, who's on the line, actually sent me a message saying deadly. So, so she
Good
got
work.
it.
Well done.
I love it. Well, look, thank you so much, Jack and Lachlan, for sharing your journey and getting the Message Stick program up and running. I know you did say at one point that you hope to do yourselves out of a job, but I can actually see this being, adapted in other parts of the country. Is that something that you'd like to see as well?
Yeah, for sure. We definitely want to see cultural transition programs. The really great thing about this program is it's been created by so many parts of our local community. But I could definitely see a blueprint version moving across the country, but we haven't quite looked into that just yet. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can just see the potential there. And as you say, you'd want it to be kind of specific, and it would need to have, you know, input from each community, but there are certainly elements that look like they'd be able to be transferred. It's amazing. And you're also, earlier, I think before the webinar got started, you said that you're actually expanding your reach into other primary schools. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, Jack, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think in future we're definitely in conversation of expanding it even more. But we have, yes, for this year we have added an extra primary school that feeds into the one high school. So it's going to be really nice, I think, for the kids to gel together from the different primary schools, and then giving them, it sort of empowers them in a way to move into high school together.
I think also just going back to the question around bringing the program into other communities, I think one of the key parts to that is like having like that real strong community effort. I think we say like, you know, schools, elders, community, like multiple times throughout the presentation. And I just think like those pillars of the program are so important. So I definitely encourage the communities that want to create programs like this to start at that point, because we found that to be really helpful, is really setting strong pillars of those different partnerships amongst elders and community and the education system as well. So yeah, it's a great start for sure.
I love that, and I love the mentoring relationship. Like, it's such an important thing to do with kids as they're getting older, is to remind them about what they've learned and what they can share with younger people. So yeah, it's a really, really cool part of the program. I do want to open up and just see if anyone in the webinar has a question to ask. If you do, please just raise your hand using the raise hand function and we'll unmute you, or you can pop something into chat. I know Kylie put something in chat earlier saying great outcomes, and I think that was when you were showing the slides around the, you know, the checking in that that really was showing really good outcomes. So let's just give people a moment. I can see the deadly now. I'm just going to say I'm never very sharp on these kinds of things.
It's a super fun icebreaker activity.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I don't think we're getting any questions coming up. Oh, and Kylie's saying in chat, I can see the deadly now too, and says, thanks, Lachlan and Jack. Awesome work with young people and community. Love the buddy ideas. Yeah, there's so much amazing stuff in there. And I think doing that, the action research, the kind of being able to, you know, make adjustments as you go and learn as you go is such a great way to do it. Yeah.
Thanks, Kylie, for that comment.
Well, it doesn't look like we have any questions, but are there any last comments, Lachlan and Jack, that either of you would like to make?
I was just sort of going to say as well, because this presentation is recorded, will there be a chance for people to send in questions later on if they get the chance to watch the recording?
Yeah, look, absolutely. We would welcome questions, and I'm just going to put my email address in here into the chat. Sorry. I can't do two things at once, so just let me do this.
Yeah, that'd be great, because, you know, sometimes people think of questions either later on during the day or during the week.
Yeah,
it might
absolutely.
Be nice if they could send in some questions for us.
Yeah, look, if anyone on the call has a question, please do flick it through to me at policy@frsa.org.au, and I'll get that through to Jack and Lachlan. So look, thank you again so much, Jack and Lachlan, and thank you all for joining today. It's just been, yeah, really wonderful to see. I always love seeing this kind of research. You're getting some claps here from the audience, which is always lovely. So, yeah, thank you again, and have a good day, everyone.
Yeah.
Nice to
Thank
see you.
Robin. Thanks
Okay,
everyone for coming.
Everyone.
bye for now.